comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? There being none, the next item, review of minutes for February 7th, 2024. Is there anyone here? Yeah, here we go. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move to approve the minutes for February 7th.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda, Hangry Hot Dogs, new location and hours request. If you'd like to come up, please.
How are you doing this afternoon, folks?
How are you?
Good.
If you could just introduce yourself. and-
Yeah, my name's Timothy Hoagland, owner and operator of Hangry Hot Dogs and More. Just here for the board to ask, actually a couple questions. I know it's not on the board tonight, but I know I'm just trying to increase my hours for operation at Extra Mart. And I'm wondering if I can duplicate those hours for 175 Sterling Street, which is also owned by Extra Mart. It's by the Sterling Street pub. They said that I would be able to use their location anytime that I would like. Obviously with the signed piece of paper showing you guys that they said. But the hours would be hopefully from 11 to 2 a.m. I plan on having the 2 a.m. to late night at the opened Extra Mart. But the mornings would kind of be at the Sterling Street, the corner of town, leaving and coming into Clinton. It's kind of almost a perfect place.
So it would be, when you say the hours would mirror each other, you're saying what time earlier in the day?
So I'm hoping to use Sterling Street early in the day and then Extra Mart from still 10 to 2 a.m. But I think it would just be easier said and done to just say mirror it. I don't plan on being in that closed parking lot with no lights late night. So if you want just from, I guess, 11 to 9 into the Sterling Street or mirror, whatever's
11
easier.
11.
11 a.m., correct.
Sorry,
To 2
Sterling
a.m.
Street, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah, unless it's easier to just mirror it, whatever's easier for you guys. And then, right, you guys have already said that I was okay for Extra Mart from 10 to 2 a.m. Like I said, I was just wanted to kind of divulge into that.
All right, so, all right, so the next step would just be, would be a hearing, correct? Is there a hearing necessary for that?
Well, it probably would be helpful to have a hearing, just if it's a different location. And also, I think for the renewal period, because we didn't have a solid parameters for the license, so it wasn't on the renewal list. So I think if you did have the next meeting to have a hearing and all that information and put it on a new application, because then the Board of Health would then have to be made aware of the new spots as well.
John is aware. I did speak to him last week, just so you know. And if it is easier for the board and you guys, we can talk about the other location at the next hearing. If we could just extend the hours so I'd be able to get an afternoon lunch at the Extra Mart and then still continue my 10 to 2. And then I would definitely love to write, a paper, just leave a paper trail of asking for the Sterling Street.
All right, so, what would we need for the next meeting? What does he need to bring?
I was going to give him,
Okay.
after you walked out, give him the
Perfect.
paperwork that he can fill out and put all the new information on there for us, yeah. That'd be good.
Okay, yeah, so currently, he would still have to observe the originally approved hours at Extra Mart. The next meeting he comes to, then we can discuss the new hours that he's applying for. Is that correct?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Does that make sense?
Not really. Well, I'm just curious as to why not. What's the difference between the meeting tonight and next meeting?
Because the next meeting will be a hearing, it will be a public hearing.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a difference.
Yeah, there'll be a public hearing.
We have to advertise it so that neighbors, anybody can come
Okay,
out.
gotcha. I realized there wasn't other people here as well. I just didn't know why.
Yeah.
Is this like a soft hearing or?
No, it's just a meeting.
Yeah,
Okay,
Just our meeting.
gotcha. Sorry.
But assuming you'll have like a formal application for that permit next time?
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah.
Right.
and then the
Yeah,
hearing.
yeah, 'cause
Definitely.
we didn't have any of the information.
No problem. I was just,
asked to
I
be
was
on
a
the
little
agenda
confused
to
as
talk
to what
Gotta
it was.
just dot our i's and cross our t's.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right, very good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda, Veteran Services Officer Brendan Bailey.
Hello.
So I figured I'd do the Memorial Day, my budget all the same night, if that's cool.
Sure.
On my budget is pretty simple. Mike gave you a copy, but, so I have, and I'll just go as quick as I can with how the veterans benefits work, the Chapter 115 money. So, that's paid out to veterans that are like low income. It helps with some of the funeral expenses for, again, all income based. So this year, when I get done, and I've got 3 months left, we already paid for March, I'll still have about $120,000 out of the 200 that I haven't spent. So for those that are new here, when I started, I had 400,000, and over the last 8 years, I'm giving you back 200,000 incrementally, not just one. But even now, and I'm saying I could cut it by 20,000, and I'd still feel. And the only thing that I have to pad some money is when someone moves from another town into Clinton, we take them over immediately. Even though it's a state benefit, we'd have to. I can't tell you, 3 people are going to move in. I can't plan for that. But having that extra money, at the end of the year, I tell Mike or I tell Diane, then you guys do what you want with it. I mean, I don't know what it goes back to the general fund or however. So you can cut it by that 20 grand. I haven't met with the finance committee yet. You can cut it by the 20. We'll leave it in there, and I can, it'll be available at the other end. But if I know 20 grand is not a lot in a town budget, but it's still money I don't need. My miscellaneous stays the same. I'm perfect with that, and the Memorial Day fund is staying the same, and I'm good with that. So my budget will be the same. If you want that 20 grand back, take it.
What about the vehicle expenses?
So I had in my miscellaneous in the past, I had mileage. So when I'd go down, I'd go somewhere, I'd charge a mile. So all I did for that now is I've just converted that money into maintenance. So it's the same amount. Yeah. So I don't know if you have the category, the miscellaneous expense sheet. If you have that.
Yeah.
So where it says gas mileage, I just added / maintenance, and the amount is the same as it was in the past. And that one maintenance thing I can think of is the inspection sticker, or down, not now, but maybe 3 years down the road, they might need tires or something like that. But so it all stayed the same. And the big one at the bottom, the lease agreement, I have a website that I have to pay a year. That's how we track federal cases. So that's what that comes in. But everything else, like I said, everything stayed the same. I'm comfortable with it.
Very good. Okay.
So Memorial, like I said, stay the same. And now with Memorial Day, I don't have a lot to tell you. I sent a letter out. I think I gave a copy to Mike and to you, Matt. And I sent just so somebody knows, I sent a letter out to the 3 veterans organizations in Clinton, the PAV, American Legion, and the VFW. I heard back from the Legion. They have a meeting on the 20th of this month down at the VFW. So I'm going to attend that meeting. And she said she's interested. I have a list that I think Ed had. I don't know if he shared all you guys, kind of what I'm going to see if they want to take over. And I can give you more information after that. I'm hoping that, I know, Matt, you and I talked, I have the point of contact for the VFW, so maybe they'll come to the same meeting and I don't have to do the same sales pitch twice. But I'll know more after I talk to them, but I'm hoping they'll take it over like the American Legion did in the past, and then I just have to kind of coordinate that. Because we do, even though you have an organization that takes it over, we do have town departments that do, like the Parks and Rec set up the stage, and they the facilities gets the flags ready. So there are departments that do prep on that Thursday or Friday. It's the weekend or the holiday where, it's everybody's holiday. And so anybody, like last year, the Parks and Rec were awesome. Mackenzie came in and lined up the organizations down here on her time, and that was nice for her, but you can't.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know I'm getting it this quick, but I know you have a lot to do, so.
Oh, and I think, myself and Brendan have talked about, like even on the other side, like the people who participate, like the organizations, of reaching out to them now and just saying, point of contact, requesting communication information, and then have, at least if one of these organizations is willing to undertake it, then we kind of can have, all right, well, here's everyone, here are the people you have to contact, or something along those lines, so. No, thank you. Any other questions?
I just was kind of, how many people are you servicing through your department now? Like, do you measure by claims or by?
You know, that's a
How
good
many
question.
veterans are?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe looking
the
for-
chapter 115, which is the monthly payments, I have about 15 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that varies. You have, veterans themselves or their widows. That's all income. And I don't bore you all day, but it's all income based.
Okay.
I don't have, when I first started with, you get some young veterans that were looking for work. And so what chapter 115 does, is if they're still looking and their unemployment runs out, that picks it up. But it has to, it's just like, it's like your last choice, your last, but they do help with the fuel assistance. And then if there's a funeral, like and it's all income-based, but if it's the state, this is all a state. But they also pay for the flags we put on Memorial Day. The town pays for it, and then at the end of I don't know when, Mike might know, when at the end of the year, everything I've done in chapter 115, the state has done, they audit it, and if it's done accurately, we get 75% back. I don't know how many years it takes to get the 75%, but other than the claims, I could, in fact, I was talking to one of the other veterans officers, she started doing it last year, and I could do it in July, is kind of track how many people come in, because, some people come in and do a claim, and I just write down that they were in, so I know kind of where their claim status is, but I
Yeah.
really don't keep track of how many, and I don't get a lot, but I do get some where people from either Lancaster or Sterling, because it's just such a, you run into them out in town, and I'm like, we're all kind of, I don't want to admit, that we're the same as Lancaster. We do kind of count them, so. But I get the same, and I know, again, I don't want to bore you out, but when I go on vacation or if I'm out, I notify the state, but I also notify the veterans officers in Fitchburg and Leominster. So if somebody in Clinton needed something right away, they would contact them and they would help them. So it works out.
Very good. Any other questions? All right, thank you very
Have a good
much.
night. Thanks.
Next item on the agenda, Chief Lutz and a vehicle lettering exemption request. So because we're down two, you're more than welcome if you want to present it.
I'll present.
But I think if any discussion,
100%.
Perfect. Let's do it.
I understand that. I kind of knew that walking in when Angela told me it was in 3.
Perfect. Yep, absolutely.
So first, I want to thank the board for just allowing me the opportunity to come and ask for the exemption. So I recently spoke to Chief Coyne, and Chief Coyne had put his letter in, and I thought he was going to be here tonight on the agenda, and we discussed it and, about each other's cruisers, et cetera. So that being said, did everybody get my letter?
Yes.
Okay. So some of the things in my letter, that I talk about is obviously what I'm carrying. That's imperative. I'm carrying a lot. I'm also, some of the other things, I know you read the letter, I want to point out is, in the almost 3 years I've had the vehicle, I've driven it 9,300 miles. And again, to the best of my knowledge, I've never had a complaint against use of my vehicle. And if I have, then I'm not aware of it. Times have changed. When in my letter I talk about similar situations where the police chief goes to the conventions. I was just at a convention, I took a bunch of pictures. On the bottom, when it says Amesbury, the reason Amesbury's in there was I was just taking pictures of the chief's cars that were all in a row, and one of the guys opened up his door and he said, "What are you doing?" And it was Amesbury's chief. I said, "Well, I had a conversation with them." And I just asked him, I said, "I'm just looking for an exemption. The town would like me to letter my vehicle with the town seal." And he says, "Most of the people are not lettered, even up on the North Shore." That's why it's kind of out of the scope, was only because I had a conversation with them. The majority of the chiefs are just leaning away from it. I'm not going to sit and tell you why, because I don't really have an answer for that. But one of the things that I can say is that as a young firefighter in 1986, when I started the job and I came up through the ranks, I never ever thought in my career that I would sit at a school meeting and discuss the location of bulletproof glass and how to protect our faculty members and our students in a school. Nor did I think through my career, especially as becoming a chief, that I would see the violence in the country and have to issue my firefighters ballistic vests that are stab proof, with ballistic helmets that say, and designate them as fire EMS in reds. They know, hopefully they don't shoot or stab the wrong person that they're targeting. As well as myself. I have one in my vehicle because I may have to go to these events with these firefighters. My staff are firefighters. I just had an event, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. Went on a simple inspection. I arrived at the inspection and it was, believe it or not, it was an oil tank inspection. I got out of the car, the guy was on his hands and knees, and I said to him, I says, you know, you got cast iron fittings in your pipe, you've already failed. He took a violent temper tantrum with a screwdriver on his hands and knees and stabbed the driveway in front of the homeowner that I knew very well. I'm like, I'm gonna get stabbed on the job over an inspection. It's just, so what I'm trying to say is the fact that everything is evolved and changed. I'm not against lettering my vehicle. I wanna make that clear. What I'm against is the big display of who I am. This little picture, this is a picture of West Boylston's chief's car. Most of the chiefs, the less than 10%, and I say that just as a map, looking at how many chiefs were at the convention, they have one of three things. They have, most of the 90% of the group, they have a little on their fender. It's like their letter of their department with FD. So for Clinton, it would be like CFD, right on the fenders. Other departments have this one here. I'm like 90% sure I looked at it. It's the town seal, and it says fire chief below it. I want to say it's about my palm, about 6 inches. Same spot on the fender. One of the pictures has an American flag, you know. As I said in my letter, when I go out, everybody knows me. Everybody knows me. You know, I have blue plates. They know I'm coming. I'm in uniform. I have my radio with me. I said when I go out at night, which is a little bit different creature because, you know, the state advised me how to do that, which Jimmy and I have done. So Jimmy's in uniform. I pick him up at his residence. I'm in uniform. I have my radio on, and the police know of our location because we're now in a different environment because we're in an environment where we're going to places where there's people drinking. So we just want the police close to us. I can communicate with the police. Never, not even one issue in the town of Clinton. Nobody has ever bothered us. We go up, we ask them to count on their people. They invite us in, we walk in, we check everything. We've never had zero reason to ask anybody to count on. So I never felt fear for my safety. It's just the amount of equipment that I'm carrying. I'm just not looking to display who I am wide open. Right. Like I said, I'm not against marking my vehicle. I'm just saying, but something massive is something different, especially after roughly 2.5 years I've had the vehicle. So I'm just asking just for consideration on that, just to think about that. And that's some of the pictures I sent. You can see all the pictures. They're not marked. They're not marked. There's white ones. Most of them are white, maroon, and black. Everybody, municipal groups have all colors. So you kind of pick your choice. Police, it's all black. Yeah, they have all black cruisers. So that's all.
Yeah, you know, I appreciate you coming in and having the conversation, and I think, you know, what I would like to be clear on is the policy was not born out of concerns of people using their vehicle for personal use or anything like that. That was 100% not the origination of it. There were different departments that had different lettering, and so we talked about going more towards a uniform way, and that was 100%, right? And it's a policy that is, you know, it has to be malleable, right? There's things that come up that we weren't thinking of in the beginning, and then we, you know, shape it. So I agree with you. I did notice going through West Boylston, I did see the chief's vehicle, and I think personally, I think I would entertain your ideas, and then we could kind of talk about.
So basically, I think, just my opinion, I think there's, in the best way to say it, is probably 2 or 3 options. Option 1 I've seen is the fire department patch, which is the town seal in that spot. Or not the patch, just the town seal, or CFD and gold leaf, which I've seen on other departments. Like I named all the departments. Now, some of the things that you have to understand too is not, the majority of those departments that I said have fire plates. Some of them don't, because they have a contract and they use it for personal use. So there's a couple little bit of differences. I'm not in that position. I don't use it for personal use. I'm not gonna sit here and say to you that if my truck broke down and I needed to go down and get a loaf of bread, that I wouldn't go down in my vehicle. But that's about the extent of what I would do. You know, I mean, I just, like I said, I've driven 9,300 miles in 2.5 years. I go nowhere.
Right.
I go from work to my house, you know? So that's all. So I'm open to that, and then that's just basically how I feel, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know if the board here tonight would be, would support Chief Lutz talking to Angela about what your
Yeah.
ideas are, and then at the next meeting,
Propose.
we could,
Propose them.
we could come back together when everybody's here. Is that fair?
Just so I'm clear, so this is about protecting the gear in your car? Because
Protecting
I'm
gear.
hearing about violence and all those other things, because every other
Protecting
truck
gear.
down there is painted.
Because those vehicles stay there. I take that vehicle home to my private residence and park on my front lawn, and I'm looking to keep my gear secure.
The gear?
Yeah, my gear, a lot of gears. You can see the dog.
I would stick to that then, because the other stuff I think is just
Yeah.
muddying it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would stick to the
Yeah.
gear as your argument.
Yeah,
Okay.
Perfect.
sounds good.
All right, so you're on, you're up again.
Sounds good.
You're here.
Oh, that's right, we gotta talk,
right.
yeah. So Angela, you can start, and then I'll lead the rest. Go
All
ahead.
right, so the next item is the American Rescue Plan Act recommendations, and the first item is going to be the EMS jackets additional funding request.
So this is just to add the liners to the EMS jacket. So when they gave us a price, it didn't include that. Usually it does, so it's an additional $3,500 to have that. So
Somehow it got missed. I don't know, because we're so used to, we've bought jackets from this place for my whole career, and then all of a sudden, somebody said to me, hey, the liners are in there.
they
And my
separate.
face, I was, because I didn't realize it, you know? They handed me the quote. I says, okay, that's the quote. We did the calculation, we put the number in, there was nothing, and the liners weren't there. So then when we calculated, it was that, the difference.
Okay.
So we just would want to vote for the
Yeah.
ARPA record.
I will move to approve the funding request for the EMS jackets for the additional funding of $3,500 to complete the order.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So then there's one other thing, and it's not for this meeting, I'm just gonna bring it up, and then we'll discuss it in the next meeting, we'll get on the next meeting. So when we went for the second set of turnout gear for the firefighters, we approved all that. That being said, so through the history of the fire service, there's been PFAS, which is cancer causing in firefighters turnout gear. Now today, sitting here today, it's greatly reduced. It's down to very single digits. Well, just in the last week, they have an approved system that is completely PFAS cancer-free for firefighters. It just came out. We haven't ordered our gear. The price is gonna change. It's not gonna change catastrophic, but we put the brakes on it because we have an opportunity to buy gear that is PFAS-free to cause none of our fires cancer. You know, I says, let's hold up and get the new price. So we have the new price for the gear. We just got to add the gloves and the helmet, I'm sorry, not helmets, the hoods into it. And I don't think the price is going to be catastrophic. It's going to be a few $1,000s, but we just don't want to like, hey, we had an opportunity to be more or less one of the first in the state to have PFAS-free gear. I'd like us to
Yeah.
sign
Yeah,
up
that
for
makes sense.
we got good gear, let's get the best.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
we're
That's
Make an
all. I just want to
investment.
give you kind of a heads up on that
Yeah.
one, just because next, well, Angela and I got to talk about it.
Perfect.
All right?
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So long. And then the next item under the ARPA recommendations, Business Assistance Program update.
Good evening, members of the board.
Hello.
I believe I gave you an update by memo on this just about a month ago. Just to follow through, to recapitulate, we have extended 13 grants in an amount just over $116,000. There are still some applications where we're waiting additional information. So it's pretty much rolled out. Checks will be available on Friday. Recipients will be asked to sign an acceptance, an award letter that acknowledges that they will maintain a record of the business expenses for which the funds were utilized, and that record will be available to the town upon request if during ARPA audit, they want to go further than our actions in understanding how the funds are used.
Very good.
Did you say that they've been notified?
They've been notified, yes.
Any other questions?
None from me.
I understand it was that Selectman DeVault who requested this be on the agenda. I understand his concerns are about the timely implementation of the project. That is a fair question. I don't think, we did extend our time review to allow for input from Selectman DeVault and the Chamber of Commerce. We did extend the application period when applications seemed sluggish in coming in. But some of the delay is just due to my own prioritizing of other actions in the office above this. It's a fair characterization. It did take too long, but there are some reasons that are built into that.
Very good.
Good.
All right, so then, perfect. So we will, do we want to, would we want to jump ahead for the business recruitment and retention? Is that something that Phil is going to speak on?
Before we leave the grant,
Oh, yeah.
the grant program, I would just suggest, that even as we have these outstanding applications that haven't fully been processed, we may want to think about giving it like a 60-day window for that to happen. That should be more than enough. And if it doesn't happen, closing the program and returning any unutilized funds to the town.
Okay.
Very good. All right, so if we wanted, I'll accept a motion to jump up to hold the new business under the recruitment and retention.
So,
Yeah. Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, under the business recruitment and retention piece, I had reached out to Mr. Ward just with a couple of questions and a couple of thoughts on it. And in speaking with Mr. DeVault, we were looking at like properties that are vacant, commercial properties that are vacant in town. Basically doing like an itemization of the properties, a rough idea on how long they've been vacant. Are the properties up to code, or like, and maybe having a conversation with the owners as to what, you know, what are their visions or long-term plans for that property. And then additionally, you know, just basic square footage.
Yep.
And the thought was, there's some feedback we're getting from people that we're looking to rent space.
Yep.
So we just want to try to determine the validity of the concerns.
Okay.
And then additionally, being able to utilize the Clinton Chamber of Commerce and maybe the Worcester Chamber of Commerce is there a way we can kind of promote some of this open space to businesses around us and see if, you know, if there could be a fit. And that's what it was created out of.
Sure. In terms of understanding what the inventory is, we already do have that inventory for the downtown. We don't have a townwide inventory that, say, takes in properties on Sterling Street or North Main Street. But we have that inventory for downtown. We have the floor plates, the building conditions, contact information for the business, and a record of every business that's been in that space since 2015. So we have that fairly well documented. And for the downtown, we are in very regular communication with every property owner. And Lee does a good job of beating the hustings and attracting people to town, putting them into contact. There are a lot of reasons why some properties are long-term vacant, and we try to address those as we can, but ultimately it's private property, and it's the willingness of two parties to enter into an agreement that is sometimes a stumbling block. If we want to expand that documentation to encompass all the commercial properties in town, we can begin to do that. We have far less frequent but fairly regular communications with property owners around town. So yeah, all in favor of doing that if we think that's something we want to do. In terms of utilizing the chamber or someone else to more aggressively market these properties with Lee on board and with some more confidence and understanding of how these things work. We certainly can communicate with the chamber. I'm not sure what the chamber's capacity is presently, but we can have that conversation with them. We are also looking at working more closely with the regional tourism boards to kind of elevate the recognition of Clinton, or the availability of information about Clinton. In one respect, has historically been an issue for attracting businesses to Clinton. It's a beautiful town, but as you all know, for up until about 10 years ago, many people didn't know that Clinton existed. That's very much changing. That's very much a consequence of the changing global, the more global factors like the internet and people pushing out of Boston and, people moving into town, and now people have friends who live in Clinton and now they know things about Clinton. But it's also, in some parts, maybe a consequence of us being more prominent in publications. We've had more articles written about Clinton in the last 3 years than probably in the previous 13. And so we're trying to do that kind of outreach. But I'm more than willing to have a discussion as to what we can do, and specifically what we're trying to accomplish. If there's something we want to do that's more tactical, rather than trying to more on the level of creating an environment. If we want to do something that's strategic and tactical and measurable in the short term, we're happy to have a discussion about what that would be.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next question. Like, what do you feel like as a municipality we can do to tactically to, because I agree, there's some of these are just vacant long-term and they are private property, so there is only so much I think we can do, but
Yeah, our
what can we
ability to influence as a municipality is limited limited with regard to the fact that we don't have any skin in the game, so to speak. Ultimately, the economy we have relies on private parties, and we can put people together, and we can perhaps incentivize in the ways that municipalities can through programs, or with zoning, or making connections with people. But yeah, it's ultimately two people have to come to an agreement, and sometimes that's harder to accomplish than it would seem on the face. But in terms of something that is tactical, obviously the Strand Theater we're taking a tactical approach to that. In terms of if we wanted to try to target specific storefronts or specific buildings, I'm not sure, we have a discussion of how we might be able to do that with the resources in hand. And I mean both our capacity in terms of personnel and financial capacity to enable some things like that.
Mr. Chair.
Does
Yeah. We've discussed it in the past. Do you still think there's no upside in more of a stick approach than a carrot approach, and looking at some kind of bylaw or policy that other towns have adopted as far as fining or charging, surcharging for vacant storefronts?
We could certainly have that approach. We could certainly have a discussion.
I mean, does it work, in your
Yeah.
opinion?
To be honest, I don't know, Sean. I know that there are examples of that. I know that Arlington did it. I'm trying to think of another town that has done that. So we may have a track record on that idea at this point. But even then, it's not going to be, it's such an episodic thing
Yeah.
that it's just a data point. It's as good as one data point. We can research on that and see if there's something that's more of a carrot. And the problem we're trying to address in that instance is a vacant storefront.
Yeah.
There's vacant storefronts, and then there's obviously vacant storefronts. There's Pittsfield, for instance, is a program that had a town that had a very successful window program. And you see those in many towns across the country. Whereas if it's going to be vacant, at least it's not
Right.
an eyesore or a blight. We could have discussions about incentivizing people to do that. But I don't know, I can't sit right here and say that the stick is the right idea.
Okay. It wasn't before, so it doesn't surprise me. What about properties that seem to be stuck, like the old timer? I mean, I'm sure there's backstories to everything that we don't have to cover here, but, you know, albatrosses like that seem to be just going nowhere. I don't know, that's one that jumps out at me, that,
Check in with me on 60 days on that one.
sorry?
Check in with me in about 60 days on that.
Okay, no spoilers.
60 days?
Yeah, I think that might be enough.
Oh, they're gonna miss St. Patrick's Day again. Okay, no, thanks. It's just, yeah, that's what, I mean, I realize that there's some, I just want to make sure that we're putting all our resources toward, I understand that there might be property owners that maybe bit off more than they could chew, or like thought things might be easier to do, but as long as we're making our resources and expertise available, that's in mind.
We very consistently expressed what the town's desire is, you know, for activation and occupancy. But, you know, the property, not a knock on the property owners that they are attendant to their own interest, and they presently see their interest best served by the status quo. You know, whether they're moving towards something in the future or not is a different thing, but they're their buildings. They own the building.
Yeah.
But, you know, I know that some municipalities have gone towards vacancy taxes on commercial property. You know, and ultimately, if the town is doing everything we can to help support them,
Yeah.
then, you know, whether it's penalizing or not, you know, it's,
And if we were to seriously consider something along those lines, we might want to bring in a different expertise, like an expertise in taxes, or something that's more macro than an understanding that's at a more macro level than the understanding that any of us possesses.
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I don't claim to be an expert in it. You know, I mean, there's property in town that is well over a decade of being vacant. And,
Yeah.
you know, when the town is investing money into the infrastructure and it continues to be vacant, then, you know, there needs to be a conversation. And the town should utilize whatever options it has
Yeah.
to fill that. I mean, you know, in my opinion, so. But I agree, let's circle back around, you know, maybe
Can I
when the
add
rest of the board, yeah.
Yeah,
when the
I
rest-
just want to add one more thing. If there's feedback from people who are trying to start businesses or move into Clinton, that would be valuable for us to hear, as in terms of processes, procedure, length of getting up. Like, if that feedback is coming to you, I would just encourage you to share it so we can improve you know, sometimes we see people come in and then we're like, you're at the wrong board meeting and you're here and you're there, you know, like,
Yeah.
how can we make it easier for businesses to come in and entrepreneurs to come in and start businesses if in fact they've hurdled
Yep.
a landlord who's willing to work with them to get them up and running in that. So I think probably like a multi-pronged approach. And, you know, I mean, like, yeah, we are looking to you in terms of like economic development to say, you know, like, these are some programs that have worked, these haven't done. So we may not have like the tax expertise, but would love to hear your continued feedback on what we can do to, you know, move this forward.
Well, maybe, not to suggest the formation of another subcommittee, but maybe we should have a couple meetings with members of the board, but not a quorum of the board, where we can maybe bat some ideas around, you know, out of a public meeting. Not that we're trying to hide anything, but, you know, you don't want to say stupid things in public, and part of brainstorming is saying stupid things. But maybe if we want to set some time up to sit down with Lee, and maybe invite any other people in and have a discussion about what we see as the issue that we want to tactically address.
Great.
filling this empty storefronts, so, and not just on High Street.
Yeah.
You know, there's a piece of property that's been down at Shaw's, that's been there, you know, there's parking, and it scratched my head as to why, you know?
Well, I've had discussions with people who have tried to move in there, and I know their side of the story. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's always a reason for gosh, I know all the stories.
Yeah.
At least one side of all the stories.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay,
Greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
you guys want to move out of order for the citizens as well?
No, Mr. Duffy has been involved in the Sislak open
Okay.
space property, so if you wanted to take up that item.
Yeah, that one's on me. I was forwarded an email in my new duty as a conservation commissioner.
Yeah.
And just as a, I think it predates me just a smidge from when I got on this board. So if you just catch us up, there's a property there that, I don't know if you could explain. I don't remember all the specifics of the email.
Sure.
Just that.
The Sislak property is, I think, 23.
This is Russia Farm.
Not Russia Farm, this
Sorry.
is the Sislak Farm, it's called 40 Ks.
Oh, yeah.
It was known as the Sislak Farm,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it
yeah,
was
gotcha.
rebranded as 40 Ks.
Okay, I know.
I think it's 23 acres in Clinton and another 26 in Berlin. That was acquired by the town about 2017 or 2018.
Yeah,
In
no.
conjunction with the Sudbury Valley trustees.
They cut the ribbon right when I started, so yeah.
And it involved a park grant from the state. So we were able to acquire the land with grant funding, and SVT actually footed our local share of the purchase price. In exchange, we gave them, we entered into a management agreement with them, so they manage the property, and that management agreement is enshrined in 3 documents, the CR, the conservation restriction, the base property survey, and then the management agreement. There is, up on the property, the old mink barn. It is behind Francis Street. It's kind of fallen down. It's Francis, Robert, I think it's Francis Street. It's kind of, it's derelict. And from what I understand, an email was received saying that it's, the town is in violation of the CR and needs to remove the barn. My reading of those documents, I don't remember any discussion specifically about it. We talked about removing the barn, but I don't think discussion ever got so far as assigning responsibility for that. It's our land. I don't think that we are technically in violation of any agreement. That said, it is a hazard. It is a liability to the town. And if it's this board's wish that it be removed, we can have some conversations with SVT and maybe solicit some prices. And then once we know a price, we can see if there's a funding source that matches. Luckily, luckily everything I returned from the business grant program will pay to take it down.
So this board would vote to pursue something like that, and then we'd get bids, or?
I don't know if do they need to vote, Mike, or is it just directing me to go to talk with SVT and to find out what the mechanics are of taking it down?
Yeah, but I think if it's something we're gonna move to removal,
Yeah.
and if it's, I'd like to get, support of the board to go forward and get pricing and come back for town meeting if that's something.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, I'll move that we direct the Director of Community and Economic Development to explore mechanism for removal of the property on the Sislak open space land.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for going out of order. I very much appreciate it.
No problem. All right, we're gonna skip back to the town administrator report.
Yeah, just one quick thing that I wanted, was some of the items I was going to talk about are on the agenda already, but just wanted to highlight, just for the public and for the board, that we did get notice at our Chapter 90 apportionment that the governor filed legislation for the $400 million over a 2-year period. So that breaks down to a yearly amount of $326,365 per year. So hopefully that will get approved and we can continue on with the amount that we expected. We use that money in conjunction with the infrastructure stabilization funds to do our road paving and rehab and sidewalk work. So with our new DPW superintendent, we'll need to develop kind of a new list of work for the upcoming town meeting.
Excellent.
So that's mostly what I had, other than a couple of other items that we're going to be touching on.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the town administrator FY 2024 goals update. We will table this item until we have a full board. The next item, administrative business, there is none. And then moving back into old and new business, the next item would be the collective bargaining schedule. And speaking with Mr. Deval, he wanted to discuss the possibility of having a bargaining schedule created proactively for any upcoming collective bargaining sessions. So even when, the next cycle comes around, sitting with, or at least establishing with the unions, here are all the dates we're planning on meeting, and then adjust them as accordingly. So he can speak more to that, but that was the nature of that point. Not just on, like, say, the fire department right now, but long-term, so.
So at the beginning of the project, to set a schedule, a timeline to meet?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
That was his idea on that, so.
Yeah, because, surprisingly enough, the 3 years that were put in place will be expiring in June of next year, not this June, but so come fall, we'll need to kind of start that process, because I know the board did express a desire to try to back that up so that we could have it on time for town meeting. So we probably we usually do 6 months, but we probably would need to back that up 9 months or so. So probably after the summer, we'll probably be starting that process again with the ones that are expiring. And the two that we're in negotiations with right now are fire and dispatch that we did 1 year deals with them. It's okay, that's understandable. We can, and again, we'll set a timeline, and knowing that, that will, the both parties will probably amend that as well.
Absolutely agree.
At least to know that there's mapped out path that we can get to try to come to a resolution.
Perfect.
All right.
Very good. The next item, the Rocher Farm Forestry Management Plan update.
Sure. Mr. Chair, that is looking for approval from the Conservation Commission and / Rocher Farm Management Committee to apply to the Department of Conservation Recreation for a funding for a grant. There is a match that the Conservation Commission has the match for it, but applying for a grant to update the forestry management plan. So I think it was a year or two ago, they had applied for funding to do a forestry management plan through DCR for that Rocher Farm. Now, the grant also allows for further expansion on that to include bird habitat and climate forestry pilot areas to try and see if the land could be resilient. So they would like to put in to expand their plan to cover these two areas as well too. So it's small money. I think Larry Parkinson's involved. I think it was maybe $2,000, and the state would put in 1,000. Conservation had the other 1,000 that they would match it with. So they need the signature of the landowner on the application to go forward for to apply. And as the select board overseeing all property, it would be asking for the chair to sign it. So just asking if the board would endorse that so that they could put in for this funding and the chair sign it after the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. The next item, property conditions at 675 Main Street, the old Scooby's establishment.
Mr. Chair, that's mine. I know we've talked about it in the past, and I think the hope was that I think the last update we had was that it was in the process of being sold and that we were having trouble identifying a business owner. I travel by there on foot several times a week, and I can't speak for behind the property, I haven't been back there in a while, but I know the front of the property, which is visible to the public, is devolved terribly. And so I can imagine the back hasn't gotten better either. It's a strewn with trash. I know it seems like it's up for sale again, and our former town moderator seems to be handling the deal, so maybe we could contact Mr. Hogan and see if we can find out who's running it. It just has to be cleaned up. It's a disgrace, and it's on Main Street. And I mean, I sympathize with the neighbors who I imagine were hoping for relief from a property owner that didn't emerge. So maybe we can revisit that as well, but at the very least,
Does it appear to be encroaching on the neighbors, or is it just on the site?
No,
Right?
I mean, part of the fence is busted up so I could peek back there. I mean, I don't think I've been back there since this past summer. You know, it wasn't great. I'm sure he'd be happy to come and talk about it again. I'm talking like the berm in front, you know, the grass strip between the property and the sidewalk is littered with trash, which leads me to think that maybe the people, you know, there are people back there at off hours using the space because the trash isn't coming from nowhere. But it's been a dramatic increase since the snow's gone away, so maybe I missed it before the winter, but it certainly caught my eye several times. So
Okay, good.
I don't know if the Board of Health could look at that, or the building inspector or
Yeah,
somebody.
that's what I was just gonna ask about
I know
that.
we've talked about it before, and sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask if, you know, if the condition of the property is, you know, I mean, there's holes all over the roof. Can it be condemned? But
Yeah, like I said, if the front's that bad, then I can imagine what the back's like, and I think we're trying to show some patience with a deal that was supposed to be in progress, and if that's fallen through, then I think it has to fall on whoever owns it now, because it's unacceptable, in my opinion.
I'm with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. We'll follow up both with the property listing and also the building inspector as well. I know the last time building inspector and fire chief helped tackle the problem the last time, so I'll follow up with them again too. So,
Excellent.
thank you.
The next item, the treasurer collector job search update.
That's me too. I was just curious. Time flies, and Mr. Kittredge won't be with us forever, sadly. I wish that was not the case. But I was just curious if we've started that and how it looks, or no. I mean, I can't imagine there's a deep pool for this one either, but maybe all the more reason to
It was
start fishing.
timely request because there is movement, but it hasn't been posted yet.
Okay.
And Human Resources had budgeted for a recruitment firm to help because of the difficulty nature of finding these specialized positions. So Christine had put out an RFP to several firms, and I think there were three. Two other three did not reply. Again, because of the environment, it's hard to find the position, so they think they have concerns about taking our money and not being able to really shake the trees to get somebody
Change of
to
pace.
apply.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
Honest consultant.
Yeah.
And there was a third company that did respond, but it was for $25,000, and I think we only appropriated $7,500, so that was way out of our budget. So Christine is now putting together the notice herself. She has put together a draft here, and she's going to start advertising and try to see what we get on our own in order to at least get that process on the move. Current, soon to be former, but current treasurer collector has indicated an ability to kind of help out. He's looking to retire in June, but he has some ability to help out in the transition as well too. So, but that is now without having a consultant, we're kind of starting the process now ourselves and looking to get somebody on by the summer.
Excellent.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kittredge, he's retiring at the end of the fiscal year or the end of June
For
for retirement, end of June?
Fiscal year.
Fiscal
He's
year.
going to retire at the end of the fiscal year.
At June of this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'll be the end of the fiscal year, hoping to get through town meeting, get through the end of the fiscal year, and then somebody can start new for the beginning of the year.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I was looking at the timeline for the DPW, which was, I think, approved at the end of October, and then he started mid-February.
Yeah,
It's three and a half months. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, let's get cooking.
So,
Very good. And then, is there any more on that? The next item, employee customer service survey.
yeah, so again, I know how much, if we want to get, how much we want to get into, and we certainly can finalize at the next meeting, but we met this week internally with myself and the assistant town administrator and the human resources to kind of go through the recommendations. The consultant did meet with the managers a week before, 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, just to kind of get feedback or to provide the recommendations, get any feedback. They did provide a kind of quick little note so people could respond, and people did give some comments on the different categories. So the categories that were outlined, I know we've been talking about it, just that people in the public have been following or interested. The categories that were outlined in the recommendations were to have agencies publish hours so that it's widely known when they're open, not open. So at least if customers are coming with an assumption, if the building is open but a certain office isn't, those hours are widely published in the community. The next was sharing hours with other town departments. I mean, a lot of that kind of goes on right now, where especially on the main floor with customer service agencies, and people do kind of in the neighborhoods, they kind of work together and let each other know what's going on, but just kind of not looking to go into every deal aspect, but kind of explaining a little bit what that means. The next was require uniform and consistent office door signs when the offices are closed. This is something we would like to bring to the board, kind of a template or an idea that you could review to see if it's something that you feel would work. A lot of departments are starting to do that informally now. Maybe even just like a piece of paper, that they just photocopy and they post on their door if they're at lunch, or they're at a meeting or away on vacation. So I think people are starting to embrace some of that, so that some of that is happening, but would like to make it more formal. The other was to create a procedure and require town hall departments to provide designated coverage. This is where it's a little bit of a challenge, and everyone's all one or two person departments, and they're all pretty specialized at what everybody does. So certainly on posting notice if you're out, how people get a hold of you, or asking a neighbor to keep an ear out if somebody comes by to try to, say, oh, they're not available, we'll take a message. But trying to kind of get designated coverage where somebody's covering the transaction, which is kind of hard, and making responsibility of an office for somebody else's business. So that's a little bit difficult. The next was consider closing offices for a half hour per day to cover lunch breaks. Right now, the standard for at least for the town hall, it's employees work 8 to 4 generally with an hour unpaid lunch, so they get paid for 35 hours. We're open 40 hours, and there's an hour for lunch. So a lot of times it's difficult. So if it's a one-person office, there's going to be no coverage for lunch breaks. So there was, a recommendation about maybe closing for half an hour to try to help mitigate that full hour period where staff can cover each other for the half hour, and if there's an office that doesn't have coverage, the public is only inconvenienced for a half hour. But that's something I think we'd like to see some discussion with the board to talk about that issue. The next was creating a policy on cell phone use and headphone use in the workplace, which Again, I don't think it's a major problem here, but certainly I think we should have a policy regardless, whether there was an issue or there is an issue, there should be a standard that employees should know when and where, what, should be expected in the workplace. So we'd like to bring some drafts that other communities use to bring those for the board to review to see what your thoughts are on that. The next was phone system. I know that our phone system's a bit antiquated, and there was some complaints about, difficulty on managing customer service with the phone system. That's something the board has approved already as part of the technology upgrade. The first phase that they're finalizing right now is developing the cloud environment. They're working then, the next group of people are working on the email implementation, and then they'll do all of the file server migration, so all of the servers that are in the basement, keeping all of our records, all that information will be migrated to the cloud, and then the next step would be the new phone system. So they have different teams doing different things, but everything will be managed in the cloud, so they kind of have a step-by-step process that they want to do. But that's been approved, that's part of that funding that we're going to go forward with, so it's something that is in the works. Improvement of webpage and departmental information. That's something the Assistant Town Administrator has been working on right now. And I know we've had a couple feedback from a couple members of the board, and one of the comments was, having a standard for the website and maybe a central person that would be ensuring that the information is kind of all uniform throughout. So Angela has taken on that task. So she does kind of monitor the site, the website, tries to work with departments to try to get information up there, help teach them to put stuff on if they can themselves. If not, she tries to take on some of that as well too. So I don't know if you want to speak to that project about, kind of the uniformity you've been working on. To kind of develop a checklist of who has their email information, the phone numbers, the office hours, their mission statement, different things, that trying to make sure that every agency all has at least the basic information on their site.
Right, so right now, we've just been kind of focusing on the departments, and I'll work on the commissions and boards. But a lot of them didn't have emails, or you had to click here to get to the directory. So at least now, pretty much like 95%, everyone has, the main emails are on that contact page, the phone numbers, the hours, things like that. So it's a work in progress. Every time I look at it, there's something else I find, but we, keep trying to keep it up to date. And people have been good about, doing news flashes and trying to get more, one-time information out there as well, so.
Excellent, that's great.
And then the last piece was just a catch-all recommendation for other outside departments, outside town hall, and there was some additional comments that people were able to make. So, but another item that I think we'll need to have direction from the board is really under that not only the published hours, but looking at the hours of work as well too, to see whether what the building hours should be, what our lunch policy should be, and whether what any deviation from those standard hours, what that policy will be on how we handle that as well too. So I think that's something we'd like to see the board kind of outline a policy that will set down kind of the standard that you're looking for. So.
Yeah, I think that's great. The report was very helpful. One of the recommendations made was about the working through lunch. And I think that's something that we need to address immediately, just based upon the feedback of there being a financial liability that could be tied to that. So, how soon we can start, if it's at the next meeting, then,
Yeah, I think it would be great if by that next meeting with the full board to weigh in on it, and also it would give us a little bit more time to kind of draft a template, a cell phone policy and a door signage template that, can have the board review and see if it meets your expectations. And then, again, we can actually have a document with this backup, but also a document that lets you know what I just verbally said, kind of what is being done in each category already, and then what are some of the areas that we would like the board to weigh in on.
I think another big part of this would be alleviating the foot traffic by offering additional online services. If someone needs to come in, absolutely. But if they, if they're educated on, you can do this online, then, that will be helpful, because I think, the more you can do online, it's kind of like set it and forget it, So hopefully with our IT upgrade, we can start looking at that for the next fiscal year, that what can we add to it. The dog license is still coming up, and every time I'm like, I gotta take care of this, I gotta take care of it, and April's right around the corner.
I haven't done mine either.
The treasurer's office also put out like a reminder on their news flash. That's probably the first time we've done that, about paying the excise tax. They also said you can pay it online, so just trying to remind people.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things we're trying to do, is get things that happen all the time but never had reminders out there, so we're trying to work on that.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, even since I've joined the board, I've found, even the past year, like the improvements to the website and the more alerts and, information about job opportunities has definitely increased. So it definitely feels like there's a strong movement and momentum in that area, so much appreciated. Social media too, getting, pushing the word out that way.
Yeah, the collector and treasurer's website it's excellent, right? It has the employees, the contact information, the hours, everything, all the services that they provide within it. I mean, that's, the less clicks people have to go through to get to the information that they want is the goal.
Yeah, and I think it's a great example of where a little work in the front end is going to prevent a whole lot of headaches in the back end, because it's eliminating silly phone calls that frustrate both sides. It makes it easier for people, like the chair said, I know it's kind of a pain in the neck to populate something like this, but for the most part, once you get that done, you're just updating it from there on, and it does a world of good for everybody who expects these sort of things in this day and age.
Yeah, and we can look at what other online services would be helpful beyond what we're already exploring. The e-permitting and licensing software, there was a little bit of delay of getting a mass state blanket quote to get a vendor to get the quote, but that's been finalized, and they've done, their implementation team has already kicked off that project already, so they're working on that back office of preparing our product. It's a cloud-based product, so they do it in their environment, and then just kind of give it updates to us as to what's happening, and then info from us as to what we want on there, and then training once it gets up and running to do the training. But each module will have unlimited licenses or forms that we can put on there. So there'll be some standard ones that they'll do right away for us and get up, but anything that we feel we have, or a sign up or a registration or a license fee or something, then they'll show us how to develop our own forms and put anything on there the more the better that we can put on there would be helpful. So that'd be a huge one. They do have a transparency piece that comes with it that's just included as part of the package, so we'll see how we could use that, about getting some information out as well too. I think some of it does have, it's not their full financial reporting suite, but it will allow that transparency piece of allow us to get budget information up there as well too, and give us kind of what the current budget or revenues and show people where the money's going.
would be
So
great.
that can be part of that as well too. So it's an expensive program, but we're getting a lot out of it as well too. So that's a big one. Obviously, too, it's a bit of a bigger project. We're working on the munis, the financial implementation. That's more internally, not more so for customer service. It's more for our own staff. And then the third one that I was escapes me. I was talking about the one that I was saying that we
Come to
wanted to put forward, maybe at the next, there's another step that we'd like to put forward down for the next group of software offerings that we'd like to put out there as well too for tracking, so.
Perfect. Very good, thank you very much. Any other pieces on that? Perfect, so we'll revisit that next meeting?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hopefully be able to finalize some policies or implementation recommendations at that time, so.
Excellent. All right, community announcements.
Well, I have a committee report.
Oh, yeah. I skipped
Cable
over that.
meeting met on the 22nd. We reorganized. Ed Volt's now chair, so he'll be giving these from now on. But we talked further about the relationship with the schools and how we can improve that. And approved unanimously to go forward with quotes for the planned renovation of downstairs space into a studio.
Excellent.
So more to come on that.
Great. Very good. The community announcements. The Department of Public Works is requesting the public's assistance in conducting their town-wide water line survey. The Water Department is required by the Environmental Protection Agency to develop a water line service inventory and is requesting the public's help to identify the type of material the water service line is made of in their house. Please refer to the insert that was included in the recent water sewer bill or visit the town's website, clintonma.gov, that's clintonma.gov, under the Public Works Waterline Survey webpage for more information on how to complete this very quick survey. Thank you for your cooperation. Again, so that is the Department of Public Works requesting assistance with their town-wide waterline survey.
Yeah, so I know it might be a little complicated, but what we're trying to get at, there's a water main in the street. The town will provide a connection to the property, and then from that property owner, from their property line to their house, there's a pipe that brings the water into your house. Many years ago and early on in the town, a lot of that was done with lead pipes. And now we find out how bad lead is for us. So this here is just trying to, we had received a grant to try to identify if we have any more lead services in town. We've been working through trying to get rid of most of any town lead services on the town side, but it would, requires us to go into every household to find out if what's under their front lawn going into their house. So a mailing went out, and then there's information on the website, and we're hoping to get high compliance. I know some people, maybe complicated to understand, but we're just hoping that if people could try to find the water meter and the entry into their basement, into their foundation of where the water line comes in, and there's some pictures to try to identify, does it look black like it might be a ductile iron, or is it more grayish, so it could be lead or plastic, if it's a PVC. So try to, if it's coming in through the foundation and into connecting to your household plumbing, then that should give us good indication as to what's in there. Otherwise, the only other way to find out is to dig up the lawn to find out what's underneath. So we ask if people could just take a minute, try to identify what that is, and either return the paper survey or go online and just kind of click your property and click on the picture of what you think it is. That would be a huge help. So, thank you.
Very good, and on the one of the PDFs on the website provides visuals of the different type of materials and what to look for as well, because I would have no way of
Yeah.
knowing that. So there's some pictures there.
I know in my house, it's kind of hidden behind a wall, so you kind of got to go around the back, so it's not easily identifiable. So it took me a while to find out where was the water meter in here. So if people have never had to deal with that, it might be kind of a little bit of a challenge to find out where it is. So.
Very good. All right, so we will be leaving open session and entering into executive session under Article 3, Employee Committee Health Plan Proposal. We will not be returning to open session. Our next meeting is, we have a joint meeting coming up right on the,
Hold on.
my dates are all messed up right now.
Yeah. For the next meeting.
Yeah, the next meeting's
I think we're meeting with FinCom, right?
Right, yeah, there will be a number of meetings. The Finance Committee, the first one is March 18th. And then there'll be a board meeting on March 20th. And then I think the second Finance Committee was March 21st. So that could be a busy week, so. And then the following week was going to be the ALS presentation from the consultants on Tuesday, March 26th. And then the final budget meeting would be on April 3rd, just prior to the select board meeting on that night of April 3rd as well.
That's right, so if, that was, the start time initially was 5, but, I mean, can we do 5? Is that the one you were referring to, the 5?
We were going to push it till 5:30, so if that works for everybody, yeah. So I think it would just help people that are out of town to help get back, would be great if that
Sorry,
works.
which one is it?
4-3 was,
Matrix Consulting, the consultant, and I did, indicate that there was some openness if they needed to be flexible to do it remotely, but they said these are things that they like to do in person, so they've committed to being here on site here at town meeting at the town hall on March 26th. So.
March 26th, that's the only item on that agenda,
Right,
correct? Perfect.
exactly. Yep.
Perfect.
And then I think it was the following week budget meeting of the April 3rd was going to be the police and fire only on that night, so it would be after this discussion here. So,
Perfect. Very good. All right, so the next select board meeting will be March 20th, and then we will have budget meetings before and after that date.
yeah.
I will accept a motion to leave open session to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call. Kerrigan, aye.
Julie Bruce, aye.
Back home side? Very good. Thank you very much. Have a great night.